The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything for humanity forever. Commander Marcus Cole stood in the briefing room of United Earth Command, staring at the holographic display that floated before him like a ghost made of light. The symbols were alien, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. The translation software had worked through the night to decode it, and now the words hung in the air for all to see. "You are invited to participate in the Vashara trials," the message read. "A sacred tournament of survival and strength held every 50 cycles among the species of the galactic conquered. Your kind has been deemed worthy of an invitation." Admiral Chen walked into the room with heavy steps, her face carrying the weight of a decision that would affect billions of lives. She looked at Cole and then at the message, and she let out a long breath. "They think we will say no," she said quietly. "Every diplomat from every alien species has told us the same thing. They say humans are too weak, too young, too fragile for the trials." Cole turned to face her, and there was fire in his eyes that refused to die. "What exactly are these trials?" he asked. The Admiral pressed a button, and new images filled the room. They showed alien worlds of fire and ice, of crushing depths and poisoned air. They showed creatures fighting and dying in ways that made Cole's stomach turn, but he did not look away. "The Vashara trials are the oldest tradition in the galaxy," Chen explained. "They have been running for over 10,000 years. Species send their best warriors, their strongest survivors, to compete in a series of challenges that test everything a being can endure. Most competitors die. The winners earn glory and respect for their entire civilization. And no one from Earth has ever competed." "We only joined the Galactic Conquered 3 years ago," Chen replied. "They call Earth a death world, Marcus. They think our planet is a nightmare of predators and disease and extreme weather. They cannot understand how anything could survive there, let alone build a civilization." Cole laughed, and it was not a happy sound. "So they think we are monsters from a horror planet, but also too weak to compete in their games." "They think we are primitive," Chen said, "dangerous but stupid, like wild animals that somehow learned to build spaceships. The Velith ambassador told me yesterday that sending humans to the trials would be like sending children to war." Something hardened in Cole's chest at those words. He had grown up in the ruins of old Chicago, had survived the water wars, had climbed from nothing to become one of Earth's finest soldiers. He knew what it meant to be underestimated, and he knew how to prove people wrong. "We are going to accept," he said, and it was not a question. Chen nodded slowly, and a small smile crossed her face. "I was hoping you would say that. Start building your team, Commander. You have 2 weeks." The selection process was brutal and fast. Thousands of soldiers and scientists and survivors applied, but Cole could only choose 12. He needed people who could adapt, who could think, who could keep fighting when everything told them to stop. He chose Sergeant Diana Lin, a combat veteran who had once walked 50 miles through a desert with a broken leg just to save her squad. He chose Private Amir Hassan, a young man from Cairo who could hold his breath for 7 minutes and swim like he was born in the water. He chose Engineer Rosa Vasquez, who could build a weapon from scraps and a radio from rocks. He chose Private James Okonkwo, the strongest man Cole had ever met, who once carried 2 wounded soldiers on his back for 6 hours. And then there was Dr. Yuki Tanaka. She was small and quiet, with gentle hands and sharp eyes. She was not a fighter, not a soldier, not someone who looked like she belonged on a death mission to alien space. But Cole had read her file, and he knew that she had saved more lives than any weapon ever made. "A medic," Admiral Chen asked when she saw the roster. "The aliens will laugh at us." "Let them laugh," Cole replied. "When their warriors are dying, they will wish they had brought someone like her." 2 weeks later, the human team stood in the hangar bay of the spacecraft carrier Defiance, looking up at the shuttle that would take them to the tournament station. The ship was small and ugly compared to the sleek vessels of the alien races, but it was theirs. Cole gathered his team in a circle and he looked at each of their faces. They were scared, he could see it, but they were also determined. They were human, and humans did not give up easily. "Listen to me," he said. "Every alien in that station thinks we are already dead. They think we are weak and stupid and doomed. They have never seen what humans can do when we are pushed to our limits." He paused, and his voice grew stronger. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. We tamed fire and split the atom and reached for the stars. We did not come this far to die in some alien game." Private Okonkwo nodded. His massive arms crossed over his chest. "We show them what Earth made," he said simply. "Exactly," Cole replied. "We show them what a death world produces, not victims but survivors, not prey, but the most stubborn, most adaptable, most impossible to kill creatures in the entire galaxy." The shuttle launched an hour later, carrying 12 humans into the unknown. The tournament station was like nothing they had ever seen. It was a moon-sized structure orbiting a dying red star, covered in towers and domes and landing platforms that stretched for hundreds of miles. Ships from 1,000 worlds filled the space around it, some beautiful, some terrifying, all of them larger and more advanced than the little human shuttle. When they landed and stepped onto the station, the stares began immediately. Aliens of every shape and size turned to look at the small group of humans walking through the crowded halls. Some laughed, some whispered, some simply watched with cold curiosity. A Velith diplomat, tall and scaled and proud, stepped in front of Cole and looked down at him with yellow eyes. "So the Deathworlders have come to die," the alien said. "How amusing. I give you 1 day before you are all eliminated." Cole smiled, and it was the smile of a man who had heard such words before. "We will see," he said, "we will see." And somewhere in the shadows of the great station, the ancient being known as the Arbiter watched the humans arrive, and for the first time in centuries, it felt something like curiosity. The desert planet had 2 suns, and both of them wanted to kill everything that walked on the burning sand. Commander Cole stepped off the drop pod and felt the heat hit him like a wall. The air was so hot it hurt to breathe, and the ground beneath his boots was hot enough to cook meat. The sky above was a terrible orange color, and there was no shade anywhere in sight. Around him, hundreds of other drop pods had landed, carrying competitors from dozens of alien species. The first trial of the Vashara tournament had begun, and the rules were simple. Survive for 72 hours on this hellish world. Temperature reading is 73 degrees, Engineer Vasquez reported, looking at the small device in her hand, and climbing. Sergeant Lin wiped sweat from her forehead and scanned the horizon. "I see rock formations to the east," she said. "Maybe 2 kilometers away. We can use them for shelter." Cole nodded and gathered his team. "Move fast, stay together, conserve water," he ordered. "This planet wants us dead, so let us disappoint it." They started walking, and within minutes the humans were covered in sweat. It poured down their faces and soaked through their uniforms, dripping onto the sand below. To the humans, this was uncomfortable but normal. To the aliens watching through surveillance drones, it was horrifying. In the observation room high above the planet, alien officials gathered around screens showing the various competitors. When the cameras focused on the human team, gasps of shock filled the room. "They are leaking," a Morthax official cried out, its crystalline body trembling with disgust. "Look at them, fluid is pouring from their skin. Are they wounded? Are they melting?" A Velith scientist leaned closer to the screen, its yellow eyes wide. "I have studied human biology," it said slowly. "This is something called sweating. They release water through their skin to cool their bodies. It is a survival mechanism from their death world." "That is disgusting," another alien muttered, "and wasteful. They will run out of water in hours." But the humans did not run out of water. Instead, they kept walking, kept sweating, kept moving forward, while alien species around them began to fall. The Velith were the first to struggle. They were cold-blooded creatures who needed external heat to function, but this heat was too much even for them. Their scales began to crack and peel, and one by one they collapsed onto the sand. The Morthacs shattered. Their crystal bodies could not handle the extreme temperature changes between the blazing days and the cold nights. Emergency beacons activated across the desert as medics rushed to evacuate the dying. But the humans kept walking. They reached the rock formations and immediately began building shelter. Vasquez used debris from crashed equipment to create a reflective covering that blocked the worst of the sunlight. The team took turns resting in the shade while others kept watch. "Drink small amounts often," Dr. Tanaka instructed, handing out water rations. "Do not gulp. Let your body absorb it slowly." Private Hassan was digging in the sand near a large rock. "There might be moisture deeper down," he explained. "On Earth, desert animals survive by finding underground water sources." Cole watched his team work together, and he felt a surge of pride. This was what humans did. They adapted, they improvised, they refused to give up. On the second day, something unexpected happened. A wounded creature crawled toward their camp, leaving a trail of blue blood in the sand. It was a Corvani, an insectoid being with 4 arms and large compound eyes. One of its legs was badly damaged, and it was clearly dying of heat and thirst. The alien looked up at the humans with eyes full of fear. "Please," it rasped, "water, just a little. I will die without it." Some of the team looked at Cole, waiting for his decision. This creature was a competitor, an enemy in the tournament. Helping it would mean using their own precious supplies. But Cole did not hesitate. "Tanaka, treat its wounds," he ordered. "Hassan, give it water." The Corvani stared in disbelief as the humans helped it. Tanaka cleaned and bandaged the injured leg, while Hassan held a water container to the alien's mouth. "Why?" the Corvani asked, its voice weak but confused. "I am your rival. Helping me gives you no advantage. This makes no sense." Cole knelt beside the alien and looked into its strange eyes. "Where I come from, we do not leave people to die if we can help them," he said simply. "It does not matter if you are human or alien or anything else. If you need help and we can give it, we give it." The Corvani was silent for a long moment. "I am called Vikith," it finally said, "and I have never encountered a species like yours." By the end of the second day, the alien officials were growing worried. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. They had built a functional camp, rationed their supplies perfectly, and even rescued a competitor from another species. "This is wrong," a Velith general complained. "They are supposed to be primitive, they are supposed to fail. How are they doing this?" The Arbiter watched in silence, its ancient eyes fixed on the human camp. The third day brought new challenges. Silicon-based predators emerged from beneath the sand, hunting the weakened survivors. They were like giant worms with mouths full of glass teeth, and they could sense movement from miles away. The humans heard them coming before they saw them. "Everyone stay still," Cole whispered. "They hunt by vibration, do not move." The team froze as one of the predators surfaced nearby, its eyeless head turning back and forth as it searched for prey. For 3 terrible minutes nobody breathed. Then the creature moved away, hunting elsewhere for easier targets. When the 72 hours finally ended, rescue ships descended from the sky to collect the survivors. Of the 800 competitors who had started the trial, only 120 remained. All 12 humans walked onto the rescue ship on their own feet. Vikith the Corvani limped beside them, refusing to be separated from the strange creatures who had saved its life. "You showed me mercy when you had no reason to," Vikith said to Cole as they left the burning world behind. "Among my people, this creates a debt that must be repaid. I will not forget what you did." Cole nodded and clasped the alien's four-armed hand. "We are glad you survived, friend." In the observation room, the alien officials watched the human team return with expressions of shock and disbelief. "Impossible," the Velith general whispered, "absolutely impossible." But the Arbiter simply smiled its ancient smile, and its eyes gleamed with something like anticipation. The first trial was over, and humanity had passed. But the Vashara trials were just beginning, and far greater challenges waited ahead. The ocean world had no sun, only eternal darkness and water that stretched down forever into the crushing deep. Commander Cole stood on the platform floating above the black waves, listening to the rules of the second trial. Somewhere far below them, at the bottom of this alien ocean, a beacon waited. Each team had to retrieve one beacon to advance. Teams that failed would be eliminated. "The depth is approximately 3 kilometers, the tournament official announced. "You have 24 hours, begin." Around them, alien teams rushed to their submersibles and diving equipment. The Velith had sleek underwater vessels with powerful lights. The Drakovith wore massive armored suits that could withstand incredible pressure. Even Vikith's Korvani team had specialized breathing apparatus and swimming gear. The humans had almost nothing. Their equipment had been damaged during transport, leaving them with only basic diving masks, some waterproof bags, and a few handheld lights that were never designed for deep water. "This is a disaster," Sergeant Lin said grimly. "Without proper gear, we cannot reach the bottom." But Private Hassan was already stripping off his outer uniform, preparing to enter the water. "I have an idea," he said. "On Earth, there are people called free divers who can swim hundreds of meters deep using only their lungs. I trained with them for 2 years. I can do this." Cole looked at the young soldier with concern. "Hassan, this is not a swimming pool. There are creatures down there that want to eat us." "I know," Hassan replied with a nervous smile, "but sitting here and doing nothing means we lose for certain. At least this way we have a chance." Dr. Tanaka stepped forward. "If he is going, I am going with the team," she said firmly. "Someone needs to be ready to help if things go wrong." Cole took a deep breath and made his decision. "All right, we do this together." Hassan takes point. "Everyone else follows as deep as they can. We move in shifts, share air when possible, and nobody goes alone." They entered the water, and the cold hit them like a punch to the chest. It was freezing, far colder than any Earth ocean, and the darkness below seemed to go on forever. Hassan took the lead, diving down with powerful strokes of his arms and legs. He had taught himself to slow his heartbeat, to make his body use less oxygen, to push past the point where most humans would panic and surface. The others followed, diving in pairs, resting on rocky ledges when they found them, passing lights and equipment back and forth. In the observation room above, the alien officials watched with their mouths hanging open. "They are diving without protection," a Morthax scientist stammered. "They are holding their breath. That is not possible. No species can do that." "Humans are mammals," another official explained slowly. "They evolved from creatures that lived in water. They still carry some of those abilities, but I never imagined they could push themselves this far." Deep below the surface, the humans encountered their first predator. It came out of the darkness like a nightmare, a massive creature with dozens of glowing eyes and tentacles lined with teeth. It was as large as a house, and it was hungry. The creature grabbed Private Okonkwo with one tentacle and began pulling him toward its mouth. Without thinking, Sergeant Lin swam straight at the monster, driving her knife into its eye. The creature screamed, a sound that echoed through the water like thunder, and released Okonkwo. But it was not finished. The creature thrashed wildly, and one of its tentacles slammed into Hassan, sending him spinning into a rocky wall. Blood clouded the water around him. "Hassan is hurt," Lin shouted through her mask communicator. Cole grabbed the wounded soldier and started pulling him toward a nearby cave. The others followed, fighting off the creature with knives and lights until they reached safety. Inside the cave, Tanaka examined Hassan's injuries. His arm was badly cut, and he was barely conscious. "I can stop the bleeding," Tanaka said, "but I need to work fast. He has lost a lot of blood." She pulled out her emergency kit and began working with steady hands. She cleaned the wound with water, stitched it closed using a needle and thread she always carried, and then used a small heating tool to seal the flesh. It was brutal, primitive surgery, done in a flooded cave at the bottom of an alien ocean, but it worked. Hassan opened his eyes and looked up at his team. "Did we get the beacon yet?" he asked weakly. Cole laughed despite everything. "Not yet, but we will, you just rest." They left Hassan with Vasquez to guard him, and the rest of the team continued down. The bottom of the ocean was a strange and terrible place. Bioluminescent plants glowed in eerie colors, and the bones of dead creatures littered the seafloor. But there, in the middle of it all, they saw the beacon, a glowing sphere sitting on a pedestal of black rock. Cole swam toward it, but before he could reach it, another team appeared. It was the Dracovith, the massive warrior species that was favored to win the entire tournament. Their leader, a giant creature named Kael'thar, saw Cole and let out a rumbling laugh. "Little human," Kael'thar growled through his suit's speakers, "you have come so far, but this beacon is ours. Step aside or die." Cole looked at his exhausted, wounded team, then back at the Dracovith warriors who outnumbered them 3-1. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He grabbed the beacon and threw it to Sergeant Lin. "Run," he shouted, "get it to the surface." Lin caught the beacon and swam upward with all her strength. 2 Dracovith chased her, but Okonkwo intercepted them, using his massive body to block their path. Cole faced Kael'thar alone, knowing he could not win but buying time for his team. The Dracovith leader struck him once, twice, 3 times. Each blow felt like being hit by a truck, but Cole kept getting up, kept putting himself between the enemy and his people. "Why do you not stay down?" Kael'thar demanded, confusion mixing with anger. Cole spat blood and smiled. "Humans do not know how to quit," he said. "It is a design flaw." By the time Kael'thar finally knocked Cole unconscious, Lin had reached the surface with the beacon. The humans had passed the second trial. When Cole woke up in the medical bay, his team was gathered around him, and Vikith the Corvani stood among them. "You fought a Dracovith champion alone," Vikith said quietly. "You knew you could not win, yet you fought anyway. I do not understand your species, but I am beginning to respect it." Cole sat up slowly, every bone in his body aching. "We do not abandon each other," he said simply, "ever." And somewhere in the shadows, the Arbiter watched, and its ancient heart stirred with something it had not felt in millennia: hope. The labyrinth was alive, and it hated everything that walked through its shifting halls. Commander Cole led his team through corridors that changed every few minutes, walls moving and floors dropping without warning. The third trial was called the Gauntlet, and it was designed to break body and mind alike. "Stay close," Cole ordered as they moved through the darkness. "The maze is trying to separate us. Do not let it." They had been walking for hours, fighting through traps and dead ends, when they entered a large circular room. The doors slammed shut behind them, and a voice echoed from above. "Combat arena activated. Defeat your opponents to proceed." From the opposite side of the room, 3 Dracovith warriors emerged, their scales gleaming under the harsh lights. They were massive, powerful, and they remembered what had happened in the ocean. "The humans," one of them growled, "good. We have a score to settle." Cole looked at his team. They were tired, wounded, and outnumbered. A fair fight against the Dracovith would end in disaster. So they did not fight fair. "Lin Vasquez, circle left," Cole whispered quickly. "Hassan Okonkwo, draw their attention. Tanaka, stay back and be ready. The Drakovith charged forward expecting a head-on battle, but the humans scattered like water around rocks. Lin and Vasquez attacked from the side while Hassan and Okonkwo kept the enemy focused on them. The Drakovith were stronger, faster, better trained in single combat, but they had never faced opponents who fought as one unit, who sacrificed personal glory for group victory. Okonkwo took a terrible hit to protect Hassan. Lin used herself as bait so Vasquez could strike from behind. They traded wounds freely, trusting each other to cover their weaknesses. This is dishonorable. A Drakovith roared as Vasquez hit him from behind while he was focused on Cole. Face me properly. We are facing you, Cole replied, ducking under a massive fist, just not the way you expected. The battle ended with all three Drakovith on the ground, beaten not by superior strength, but by superior teamwork. The doors opened, and the humans limped forward into the next section of the maze. But the worst was yet to come. They entered a room filled with strange mist, and suddenly Cole found himself alone. His team had vanished, and the walls around him flickered with images that made his heart stop. He saw Earth burning. He saw cities crumbling. He saw everyone he loved dying in flames while he stood helpless and watched. This is not real, he told himself, but his voice shook. The images grew worse. He saw his team being killed one by one, saw their faces twisted in pain as they called his name, and he could not reach them. Not real, not real, not real, he repeated like a prayer. But then he heard something through the nightmare, a voice, distant but familiar. Marcus, it was Tanaka calling his name. Marcus, follow my voice. We are here, we are all here. He stumbled forward, pushing through the visions, focusing only on that voice. And suddenly he burst out of the mist and found his team huddled together in a small, clear space. They were all shaking, all crying, all haunted by whatever the mist had shown them, but they were together. It attacked our minds, Lin whispered, her usual strength replaced by raw fear. I saw my family dying. I saw everyone I failed to save. Hassan was curled up on the ground, trembling. I was drowning, he said, drowning forever, and no one came to help. Tanaka moved from person to person, not treating physical wounds but something deeper. She held their hands, spoke soft words, reminded them of who they were and why they were fighting. We are still here, she said firmly. Whatever it showed us was not real, but we are real, we are alive, and we are together. Okonkwo, the strongest among them, was weeping openly. I saw my mother, he said in a broken voice. She was disappointed in me. She said I was a failure, that I never should have come here. Cole sat down next to the big man and put a hand on his shoulder. Your mother would be proud, he said quietly. You have carried this team on your back more times than I can count. Whatever that thing showed you, it lied. Slowly, painfully, the team pulled itself back together. They shared stories of home, memories of good times, reminders of why life was worth fighting for. In the observation room, the alien officials watched in stunned silence. What are they doing? A Velith scientist asked. The psychological trial should have broken them. Every other species either goes mad or gives up, but they are comforting each other. I have never seen this before, another official admitted. Most species face the mind trial alone. They do not think to reach out to others, but the humans, they automatically gathered together. The arbiter leaned forward, its ancient eyes bright with interest. Pack bonding, it said slowly. They call it pack bonding. Humans form emotional connections so strong that they can anchor each other through any storm. It is rare, precious, and nearly impossible to break. The humans emerged from the psychological trial scarred but whole. They had faced their deepest fears and survived because they faced them together. The final chamber of the gauntlet waited ahead, a massive arena where Kael'thar himself stood waiting. Human commander, the Drakovith champion bellowed, your tricks will not save you here. This is single combat, just you and me, no teams, no tactics. Face me with honor or forfeit the trial. Cole looked at his team, then back at the giant warrior who had nearly killed him in the ocean. Stay back, he told his people, this one is mine. He walked into the arena, feeling very small and very human. Kael'thar attacked with terrifying speed, and Cole could barely dodge the first blow. The second one caught him in the chest and sent him flying across the arena. He hit the ground hard, felt something crack in his ribs and tasted blood. But he got up. Kael'thar hit him again and again and again. Cole's face was swelling. His bones were breaking. His body was screaming at him to stay down. But he kept getting up. Why? Kael'thar demanded after the 10th time Cole struggled to his feet. You cannot win, you know this. Why do you not surrender? Cole spat blood and grinned through broken teeth. Because giving up is not something humans do, he said. You can break my body, but you cannot break my will. As long as I can move, I will keep fighting. Something changed in Kael'thar's eyes. The anger faded, replaced by something that might have been respect. You are insane, the Drakovith said slowly. Probably, Cole agreed, but I am still standing. Kael'thar raised his fist for the final blow, but then he stopped. He looked at the battered human before him, at the impossible will that refused to die, and he lowered his arm. I will not kill something this stubborn, he said quietly. You have earned my respect, human. This battle is over. The trial was complete. Cole collapsed into the arms of his teammates, barely conscious but somehow smiling. They had passed the gauntlet. The dying planet screamed as it fell into its collapsing star. Commander Cole stood on a ridge of black rock, watching rivers of lava carve paths through the landscape while the sky above burned with terrible orange fire. The final trial of the Vashara tournament had begun, and it was simple in the worst way. Last team standing wins. Only 4 teams remained after all the trials. The humans, the Drakovith, the Velith, and a coalition of smaller species led by Vikith the Corvani. The planet will be consumed within 6 hours. The tournament announcement echoed across the burning world. Only one team can leave. Fight well, die well, and may the strongest survive. Cole gathered his remaining team. Sergeant Lin, Private Hassan, Private Okonkwo, Engineer Vasquez, and Dr. Tanaka. 6 humans against the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. Whatever happens today, Cole said quietly, I want you to know that serving with you has been the greatest honor of my life. We came here as strangers to this galaxy, and we proved that humanity belongs among the stars. Okonkwo gripped his weapon tightly. We are not done yet, Commander. We have not come this far to lose. A sound from behind made them spin around, weapons raised, but it was Vikith, leading a small group of survivors from various species. We wish to join you, Vikith said, bowing its head. You showed me mercy in the desert. You taught me that strength is not just about fighting. It is about protecting those who need protection. Cole clasped the Corvani's arm. Welcome to the team, friend. Their combined force was still smaller than either the Drakovith or Velith armies, but they had something the others did not. Unity forged through respect rather than fear. The first attack came from the Velith. A squad of reptilian warriors charged across the broken ground, weapons blazing. The humans and their allies took cover behind rocks, returning fire and slowly retreating toward higher ground. They are trying to push us into the lava fields, Lin shouted. We need to break their advance. Vasquez had an idea. The ground here is unstable, she said quickly. If we plant charges at those crack points, we can collapse the ridge and cut off their path. She ran forward under heavy fire, placing explosives with steady hands while bullets flew past her head. Okonkwo followed her, using his body as a shield to protect her from the worst of the attacks. The charges detonated perfectly, and the ground collapsed beneath the Velith advance. Dozens of enemy warriors fell screaming into the lava below. But victory came at a terrible cost. Vasquez took a hit just as she was running back to safety. The blast caught her in the side, and she fell hard. Okonkwo grabbed her, trying to carry her to cover, but a second explosion knocked them both down. "Rosa!" Cole screamed, running toward them. Vasquez looked up at him with fatting eyes. "Did it work?" she asked weakly. "Yes," Cole said, his voice breaking. "It worked. You saved us." She smiled, coughed blood, and went still. There was no time to mourn. The battle continued. The Velith, furious at their losses, turned on the Drakovith in a desperate betrayal. The two alien armies tore into each other while the humans and their allies watched in shock. "They are destroying each other," Hassan said. "Then we let them," Cole replied grimly, "and we survive." But the chaos attracted attention. Kael'thar, the Drakovith champion, broke away from the battle and came straight for the humans. Behind him, a handful of loyal warriors followed. "I told you we would meet again, human," Kael'thar roared. "This time there will be no mercy." The final battle was brutal and bloody. Lin fought like a demon, taking down 3 Drakovith warriors before one of them caught her with a blade across the stomach. She fell, still fighting, still refusing to give up. Okonkwo stood over her body, protecting her until Tanaka could reach them. He killed 2 more enemies with his bare hands before exhaustion finally took him down. Cole and Kael'thar faced each other one last time. "You are brave," Kael'thar admitted. "Braver than any species I have ever fought, but this is the end." They clashed like titans, human determination against Drakovith strength. Cole was faster, smarter, more creative, but Kael'thar was simply too powerful. The Drakovith champion grabbed Cole by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "Any last words, human?" Cole looked past Kael'thar and smiled. "Yes," he gasped, "duck." Hassan, moving silent as shadow, had circled behind the giant warrior. He drove a blade deep into the gap between Kael'thar's armor plates. The champion roared in pain and dropped Cole. Hassan struck again and again, until finally the mighty Drakovith fell. But even then, Kael'thar looked up at the humans with something like respect. "Well fought," he said quietly. "Perhaps your kind truly deserves to win." Then he closed his eyes, and the champion of the Drakovith was gone. The planet was dying faster now. The ground shook constantly, and massive pieces of rock were breaking off and falling into the star below. "We need to reach the extraction point," Tanaka shouted, pointing toward a platform in the distance where a single ship waited. They ran, carrying their wounded, climbing over obstacles, racing against time itself. Lin could not run. Her wound was too severe. Okonkwo lifted her onto his back and kept moving, refusing to leave her behind even as blood poured from his own injuries. Viketh and the allied aliens helped clear the path, fighting off the last desperate survivors of other teams. They reached the platform just as the ground behind them collapsed into nothing. Cole was the last one to climb onto the ship. He turned and looked back at the dying world, remembering those who had fallen. Vasquez, who had sacrificed herself to save them all, so many brave allies who had given everything. The ship launched into space, and the planet below was swallowed by its star. In the great hall of the tournament station, the survivors stood before the Arbiter. 6 humans, wounded but alive, Viketh and a handful of allied aliens, and the weight of incredible loss pressing down on all of them. The Arbiter rose from its throne, and its ancient voice filled the hall. "In 10,000 years, I have watched countless species compete in these trials. I have seen strength and speed and power beyond imagination, but I have never seen anything like what you have shown me." The ancient being looked directly at Commander Cole. "You were not the strongest, you were not the fastest, you were not the most advanced, yet here you stand, the last ones remaining. Tell me, human, how did you survive?" Cole thought of his fallen friends, of the impossible journey they had taken, of the bonds they had formed with aliens who had started as enemies. "We do not survive because we are the best," he said finally. "We survive because we refuse to die alone. We carry each other. That is what makes us human." The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then it spoke, and its words echoed through the station and across the galaxy. "The Vashara trials have found their victors. Humanity has proven itself worthy. May the galaxy learn from their example." The cheering began, first from the allied aliens, then spreading until the entire station rang with celebration. But Cole did not celebrate. Instead, he walked to a quiet corner where a small memorial had been set up for the fallen. He placed 3 items on the stone: Vasquez's engineering badge, Lynn's combat knife, and a small photo of all 12 humans taken before the trials began. "We did it," he whispered. "We made you proud." Tanaka came to stand beside him, and Viketh followed. "Your people are strange," the Corvani said softly. "You mourn your dead, yet celebrate your survival." Tanaka smiled sadly. "That is how we keep going," she said. "We remember them so they are never really gone." Cole looked up at the stars through the station's windows, thinking of Earth, thinking of home, thinking of all the humans who would never know the price that had been paid to prove their worth. "We showed them what humanity can do," he said quietly, "and this is only the beginning." Somewhere out there, across 1,000 alien worlds, a new question was being asked. The Deathworlders had won the Vashara trials. What else could they survive? What else could they achieve? And the answer, humanity knew, was simple: anything they set their minds to, as long as they faced it together.